Update. I'm full of regrets, believing that my husband cheated on me when he didn't. Original post. Cheating is something that I have always had strong opinions about. I've been cheated on before and it sucked. Everyone knows that I don't forgive cheaters. So when my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, staged an elaborate scheme about my husband cheating, I ended the relationship. My relationship, unfortunately, wasn't the only one that was affected. My sister-in-law, Lisa, 32, her best friend, Emma, 32, and my husband, Jamie, 29, were best friends growing up. Emma got married early when she was 20. Her husband was abusive. She has 2 children with him. She got divorced 10 years later, and she was finally free from his abuse. She suffered a lot, however, and was probably and still is in therapy. Her and her children. I, 30, met Jamie 4 years ago. We got married 2 years later. Everything was awesome. What I didn't know was that Emma wanted Jamie and Lisa and made it her mission when Emma finally got divorced to bring her brother and best friend together. I didn't know any of this, so I never knew that there was a hidden agenda when a few months ago into my marriage, overheard Lisa talking about how Jamie was cheating on with a married colleague of his. In hindsight, I can tell it was staged because she was saying unnecessary details and was very loud. She meant for me to hear it. I confronted her then and there, and she played very flustered and apologized and begged me not to ruin my marriage. She told me Jamie loved me and she never wanted to lose me as a sister. But at the same time, she provided me with pictures and texts, they were all photoshopped, of my husband and his colleague. She begged me not to mention where I found out, and I was grateful for her support and promised her not to expose her as the source. I confronted my husband with everything, and he adamantly refused to admit to anything. It hurt me more that he never admitted or apologized, ever. He asked me where I got this information from, but I kept my promise and told him it was an anonymous tip. I also went so far that I contacted the colleague's husband. At the time, I thought it was the right thing to do. The colleague is this very beautiful woman that my husband worked very closely with many hours a day. I was a bit jealous of that, and I confided my fears with Lisa. She used it against me. I asked for a divorce, and the colleague's husband did too. After that, Lisa, who I thought was my friend, who called me her sister, disappeared from my life, like I never existed. Even when I bumped into her, she was short with me and indifferent. Months went by, and I was still heartbroken, processing the separation. My husband stopped trying to make me see reason and agreed to the divorce. He said he wanted to move on. I started having doubts. Why is Lisa doing this now? She was my friend and wanted the best for me, yet now she didn't even answer my texts. I followed both her and Emma on Insta, and I started seeing how Emma and my husband gradually started hanging out, at least once a week, and Emma or Lisa shared stories about my husband with Emma and her children. What I did next was very questionable, and yet I don't regret it at all. I was desperate and I needed the truth. I was still very good friends with Lisa's on-again, off-again boyfriends, Mike's sister. I told her my doubts and everything. I told her that Lisa was my source, that my husband was cheating, and that I'm starting to doubt everything and that I needed their help to unearth the truth. Mike was easier to persuade to help me than I expected. He had Lisa's passcodes and he went through her messages with Emma. And there was everything. They have plotted everything. They used my idiocy and insecurity and made me throw the best thing that ever happened to me. He sent me all the proof that I needed, even the original photos they used to Photoshop my husband with his colleague. My world was turned upside down again, and I went down a deeper depression. I stayed in bed, called in sick for 2 weeks. I've not only ruined my life, but also another family. I don't know why I'm writing here. If I wanted advice or just to vent, I don't blame anyone for my stupidity for ruining my marriage. I should have trusted my husband and the love that he had shown me. I should have been honest with him about everything, and where I got the news that he was cheating from. I should not have gone to hurt the colleague and her family just because I thought she was beautiful. She has since quit her job and moved, but I still had her husband's contact information. I had to at least apologize. We met and I told him everything. He was so angry with me. He was crying and yelling at me, and all I could think of was that I deserved every insult he threw my way. I found the colleague on Instagram and DM'd her everything and a long apology. She didn't answer me. I don't know if I should tell my husband too. I know I don't deserve him at all. And I know that he doesn't want me anymore, but maybe he should just know what Emma is doing and what she's capable of doing. He deserves to know the truth. Maybe I could start with reassuring him that I'm not trying to win him back. I'm just trying to help him understand and apologize. I need to apologize for everything I don't know. Now for the comments before reading the update. It also justifies OP's reaction. It's less than she didn't trust him to tell her the truth, and more that she was gaslit very intentionally and very convincingly in order to elicit their breakup. How on earth was she supposed to know that her sister-in-law and sister-in-law's friend were actively conspiring against her? And why would any rational person automatically assume that was the case? Show him the proof. Explain in detail who deceived you, how, and why. Tell him how they intentionally used your trust in them to turn you against your own partner. Even if it doesn't save your relationship, he deserves to know what his own sister is capable of in the name of her own self-interest. And if he doesn't get with the sister's friend, how many relationships of his will they ruin to get their way? Reminds me of one I read where a guy's girlfriend was ruining his employment. For no discernible reason, he deserves to know who he has to watch his back with. There is no chance in hell this is real, not a chance. She swears her sister-in-law to secrecy, sabotages her marriage, then ruins the colleague's marriage, then conspires with the sister-in-laws who orchestrated this whole elaborate plot, boyfriend's sister who tells the boyfriend, who then goes snooping into his own girlfriend's stuff and delivering it to OP. Wouldn't this destroy his relationship with his own girlfriend in the process? This is just way too complex, and way too many details just don't seem right. But hey, it was an interesting read. I agree with all of it, plus, when she confronted her husband and he was adamant he wasn't cheating, why would she just not 100% not believe him if she truly loved and trusted him? Why would her loyalty still lie with the sister-in-law? To the point where she didn't even tell her husband that sister-in-law was the one feeding her this info. Honestly, in this extremely far-fetched scenario, if husband was completely adamant that he didn't cheat even with such as undeniable proof, you think she'd say something along the lines of, okay, so tell me why your own sister gave me this evidence. Then they could confront sister-in-law together and figure out the truth. It just doesn't seem plausible to stay so loyal to the sister-in-law and not even for a second give the benefit of the doubt to her own husband, who was so perfect and presumably gave her no reason to not trust him. Now for the update. Update. Hi, have an update. Thank you for being so supportive. I honestly didn't expect that given how long and boring my story was. I remember being so desperate and wanting to tell everything from the beginning and put it out there, maybe to try and make excuses for myself and for what I did. I appreciate that you wanted to help. I decided to meet up with Jamie. Every time I tried to text him and ask for a meeting, I would panic. That wasn't a good sign at all. I wanted him to know everything in details, and I tend to be all over the place when I'm panicking. So I decided to email him instead. I made a lot of drafts, cross-checked all the information, and waited a whole day before sending, adding some details here and there that I've forgotten to include. I sent him all the manipulated pictures and the original. Every screenshot Mike sent me from Lisa and Emma's conversations. I made it clear, however, that I wasn't trying to manipulate him to have me back, because I knew what I did was unforgivable, but that I wanted to warn him about who he's dealing with. I told that I have been watching Emma and Lisa's IG and have seen that he was getting cozier with Emma. I wanted him to know all the facts. If he was dating her, this took all my energy to write. Just the thought of him dating Emma, I can't. I texted him that I've sent him an important email. He didn't answer me. On Wednesday when I came back from work, Lisa, Emma, and Emma's 2 children were waiting for me outside of my building. When I let them in, stupid me, Lisa started yelling and threatening me. She told me to call and tell Jamie and Mike that I've made up all this because I'm a pathetic loser. She told me I didn't want her as an enemy because she would make my life sour, believe me. You don't want me to make destroying your already miserable life my mission. Emma just smiled the whole time. She later said that my husband always had a crush on her and that he wouldn't believe my nonsense because he could finally be with her. The thing is, it felt like Lisa was more angry that Mike knew what she did rather than her brother, and she was really annoyed about Emma and told her to shut up all the time. I couldn't get them out of my apartment, so I just left and called Jamie. I told him that they were at my place and that I couldn't get them out. 15 minutes later, I saw them leave. Jamie texted then that he wanted to come over if I was all right with it. Yes. He told me that he was very hurtful that I would doubt him like this and believe the rumors. I told him everything again without panicking. I told him that I loved and trusted Lisa. She was like my sister, and I asked him to put himself in my shoes, and if he happened to hear Lisa talk about me being unfaithful, would he have any doubts in his loving sister's intentions? He stayed the night and left the next morning. We have been texting several times a day and talking on the phone and FaceTiming each night. He says that he loves me and that he doesn't know what to do. He is very hurt by his sister and Emma, of course, but even by me. He hasn't talked about canceling the divorce process yet. I still have to wait, and that's understandable. I've turned his life upside down twice in such a short period of time. On a happier note, my husband's colleague and her husband are back together. My husband met with them and apologized. I've already told them everything, but my husband felt the need to apologize personally. Mike has ended it with Lisa. Lisa and Emma's relationship is very strained. Both have blocked me from Instagram, of course, but apparently Lisa is blaming Emma for Mike leaving her, and Emma has tried to throw Lisa under the bus by telling Jamie she was innocent in all of this. I really hope my husband forgives me, and I promise that I will make it up to him and love him forever. Story 2. My 16 male pastor shamed my friend 16 female for wanting an abortion in front of the congregation. Plus update. Original post. I want to be completely honest. One of the main reasons I'm writing this now is because my parents are very upset with me for disagreeing with them what happened at church last week. I personally don't think that we should even be going right now since they're letting 70%-ish capacity into the sanctuary on Sunday mornings. And we live in New York and the congregation is pretty big. And while I don't want to name the church, they can fit over 1,000 outside of the pandemic boundaries. But that's not the main thing that I want to make this about. A girl in my youth group recently became pregnant with someone who doesn't go to our church. We've talked casually, but we've never hung out outside of youth except for group events. But she's one of the few people who I talk to there, and sometimes in our group chat. And my parents don't really allow me to stay home even when I ask them to go out on Sunday mornings or some Fridays. But that's not the point either. I just wanted to add that for context. This past Sunday, the pastor told the congregation that someone in the youth had recently become pregnant and needed prayer along with her family. And while he kept it anonymous, some of the people in our youth group still knew who it was. And this is because her parents told someone that she was contemplating abortion to try and get support for talking her out of it. And she told me this when we messaged a few days ago. When I talked to her, I tried my best to encourage her and say that her parents had no business talking to the church and telling them what should have been kept as a private matter. But she said that she's scared that they won't allow her to have it or may treat her differently if she does, and that they also want her to sit with someone to talk to, someone who is a leader in the church. She also said that they keep telling her things about how she lives in their house and other stuff like that, and her dad is also a trustee as well. I told one of my friends from school about what happened, and she said that her parents are probably trying to stall her out of the time frame to have an abortion. And I told her that I didn't really know how all of it worked, but that I just wanted to know more since she felt comfortable enough to open up to me for some reason. But I didn't really know what to say or how to really help. She also said that they're trying to guilt her out of having it too, and that being in that environment with word of mouth isn't healthy for her either, and that what her parents are doing is borderline abusive. When I spoke with my parents about what happened after church, I told them that I didn't think it was proper for the pastor to do that in front of the congregation. but they told me that's what happens when people sleep around and do things that they shouldn't be doing outside of marriage. Just like they taught me about purity when I was younger, but I told them that that should have been kept as a private matter. They said that when someone sins and doesn't listen to their parents, then the next step is to go to the church. And I don't even know if I can trust them in the future to not do the same thing to me and my private information, if they support telling others about things that should be private. And when I told them that that is part of the reason why I never tell them anything, they just started yelling at me and re-echoed shit about me not spending enough time with the family and staying locked up in my room. But that's a whole different thing and not the point of this. I don't know if I can help her, but since she felt comfortable enough to open up to me, I want to be able to be a friend to her at least. And if there's anything else I can do or say from anyone who maybe has gone through something similar, I would appreciate any advice on how to help her in this situation if she happens to reach out to me again. Edit, I do have a car that my parents bought for me, but she does not. She's 16, but I don't think her parents would help her with the process at all by how they're acting. And I don't know if I can legally by driving or if that would hurt my living conditions with my parents and how they view me or her parents and the potential boyfriend involved. Although if she needed someone, I would consider after getting more education and advice on how to do so. Comments from the first post before the update. I haven't read through all the comments, so I don't know if you've already been given this advice, but since you guys are in New York, she can get an abortion anytime she wants, even as a minor. Parental consent is not required. Please let her know this information if you can do it discreetly without jeopardizing your own situation with your own family. You can offer to drive her to the nearest Planned Parenthood when and if she is ready. She will need an ID, and if she can't provide health insurance, about $500 for the fee. It's that simple. I know because I've been in this situation. For a pill abortion, she will need a couple hours alone in a bathroom while the medication kicks in, and then some menstrual pads for heavy bleeding for a few days. The pill abortion is not particularly painful, it just feels like a heavy period. But this option is only available during very early stages of pregnancy. The longer she waits, the more invasive the procedure will have to be. Regardless of what happens, thank you for being a good friend. Now for the update. Update. The only reason I'm updating this is because I received a few DMs asking what became of my friend. I didn't respond immediately because a lot has happened, but I wanted to vent about it because it still bothers me today. I'm 19 now, and so is my friend. I offered to drive her to a clinic and a few people suggested in the comments, but she wasn't comfortable going behind their backs. So that was pretty much it, and I don't blame her. She's gotten so much shit from her pastor and her parents, and the boyfriend isn't in the picture. The child was eventually born and later dedicated on a Sunday in our church. She told me that her parents were the ones who pushed for it. She began working part-time at 17, and her parents punished her for having sex outside of marriage by removing her college savings and not even giving it to her. But another frustrating thing was a post her mom made on Facebook shortly after the pregnancy. In her post, she said it was important to teach responsibility in a world that taught girls to do the opposite. She said that abortion was the easy way out and the verse about how she and her house would serve the Lord. She also said society taught girls that they can dress like sluts and be absolved from blame when people treat them accordingly. And the whole thing read as damage control and shaming to me. She said that she wouldn't allow anyone under her roof to have an abortion. And that's what she did. My friend now works 2 part-time jobs, and I try to help her with small things from time to time. Sometimes food or money that her parents won't give. My parents disagreed when I told them that they were horrible people for staying in a church that would shame someone like that. But they still attend and said that she shouldn't have dated a worldly person. And the whole thing changed my view of them because they tried to use her to teach me what not to do. And we had an argument when I told them that I'd rather go to hell to be further away from them. It was cringy and extreme at the time I said it, but I'll never step foot into a church again. Not saying they're all bad, but I can't fathom treating one of your own the way that they did. And she grew up in that church as a child too. I appreciate all the advice that I got at the time, and I hope life gets easier for her because Things are tight from what she tells me while struggling to move out from her parents. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.